Just been talking to Tony Flint, a former, he was a reservist. He was called up in 1991. He went out to Saudi Arabia, and he didn't go to fight. He went to save lives. Well, whilst he was out there, it was necessary that he was a guinea pig, and he was treated with vaccines and tablets, and now he, with the Gulf War syndrome, along with many others, are fighting so that it is recognised who caused the illness and that they should be treated the best they can and that there should be some compensation. Now, this is on the same day that 800 service men and women published in the Journal of BMC Psychiatry have shown that tens of thousands of service personnel are depressed. They come back with traumatic stress disorder, terrifying flashbacks, nightmares, and there's not enough being done. There's something like 68% of our globe is at war at any one time. 68%. And sometimes our soldiers don't know why they're fighting, and sometimes they do. Those, and I'm quoting, those with low levels of education who were of a low rank or were in the Royal Air Force were most at risk of anxiety or depression. Young soldiers were most likely to abuse alcohol and have a wretched time. And somebody shouted at me a few weeks ago because I didn't know that many homeless were ex-army people, ex-fighters. If it's happened to you, or it's happened to someone in your family, phone me, 0845 6060 973. How do you deal if you're a reservist, for instance, suddenly coming home from the battlefront? How do you cope with it? Mick in France and Jim in Dudley, good afternoon both, because you both work for the same charity, don't you? Oh, Mick in France. Yes. Mick, okay, sorry, I thought I had you up at the same time. Mick in France, yes, tell me about your charity.
Well, our charity was set up on the back of myself working with an ex-SAS guy who was written off by the system, essentially. He was told that he would have post-traumatic stress disorder for the rest of his life. Being typically SAS, he refused to believe that and sought out other avenues. We were introduced to each other, and he was one of my first clients. So literally, I worked with him, and we realised that we had a way forward.
Now, when you say being typically SAS, this is quite interesting, isn't it? Because the study today is saying that there are probably many more that have not come forward to actually reveal what's going on. How did you come into contact with him, Mick?
He was introduced via another guy that I worked with who was ex-parachute regiment. This guy in particular was declared insane and was pretty much hung out to dry. You know what the Army is fantastic at doing is training these guys, but it isn't really that good at detraining them when they leave, or allowing them a period of education that will sort of give them a moment to integrate back with with normal society. And I use normal because there is no such thing as normal as such, but everyday civilian society operates on a different premise than someone that's used to fighting and defending his mates. It has to be a period of reintegration, if you like.
So, it's like coming out of prison and having been institutionalized, except that you are facing nightmares. This is something I want to ask you. Post-traumatic stress, how does it manifest?
It manifests in many different ways. Certainly, some of the classic symptoms are depression and flashbacks, nightmares. But these are only a few of the ways in which it manifests itself. Isolation, paranoia are a number of other things that are often presented by the guys with whom we work. But physical wellness features also. I mean, some of these guys are physically unwell because they literally go down a spiral of telling themselves that they're unwell because of some of the things they're experiencing, and this manifests itself physically, which, for me, the mind and the body work in unison. If you keep one healthy, at least you then have the opportunity to create wellness at the physical level, but that often isn't the case with some of these guys.
Talking to minds, because it's a number two, you exist with people donating to you. I think that's reprehensible. I don't mean that you get the donations, that the government are not funding you or funding other people like yourself.
We were at a meeting around 2 months ago, and what is very, very apparent is that some of the key figures that are involved in mental health are really not that au fait with what's happening right at the interface of health. And for me, I'm a training analyst by background. I served 28 years in the Army and resigned my commission as a captain in the Army Physical Training Corps. I was an analyst by trade. For me, it's a little bit insane to keep doing the same thing and expect something different to happen. They need to think outside of the box. That's what we've done. And
well,
certainly...
Just tell me, what do you mean doing the same thing? What's being done over and over again?
It's very well established that cognitive behavioural therapy does not work. It's very well established that eye movement desensitization reprocessing does not work. And these are the two main thrusts for working with post-traumatic stress disorder. They're outdated and ineffective. Statistically speaking, if these people were running some of the stuff they do through statistical analyses, they would soon work out that they're doing the same thing and nothing really different is happening. Now, if you're going to really make something work, you have to start thinking outside of the box, and that's what we've done with some of the stuff we're doing.
How do you do that? I mean, if you were 25 years in the Army, you were a captain, and you were an analyst in the Army, that says to me that it is necessary that we have head doctors all the time for our soldiers.
Well, the thing is, that's a fantastic theory. The problem with the training is it does not allow them to think outside of the box. So if you talk about some of the things that make therapy work, some of those simple things are common experience, rapport, shared experience, also a capacity to totally empathise with the people that you're working with. These are all the common sort of complaints that service people have when they come back to work with the NHS.
They're going into a therapist who has absolutely no idea what they're going through or they're talking about.
They don't even have the same terminology or an element of terminology that would allow them to empathise with the person that's sat in front of them.
I see. I hear that.
These are some of the most common complaints from service people when they come and attend our programs.
So, Mick, we will put Talking to Minds on our website. Absolutely, it will go there. You see how many people? How do you get paid? How do these people find their way to you? It's really important that we open it up for people.
It absolutely is, and we're more than happy to put ourselves on the line with this. We've statistically analysed everything that we've done. I personally have worked with over 500 people since starting out as an NLP practitioner. I've also been responsible indirectly for the treatment of over 2,000 people. Now, what's interesting is that network, it keeps in touch with itself. It's also It's a very sort of help-oriented network with people that have specialised skills. How have we funded what we've done? Well, from the profits that I've made from working with some of the uniformed services, myself, VIA, the Veterans International Agency, and Talking to Minds, we've paid out of our own purse. Because we're not in this just for the sake of money. We're in this for the sake of being passionate about what we do and helping those that need help. But that is not sustainable. Purely because, I have my own family, I have my own house.
Of course.
There have been times when Robert Talking to Minds, his own situation has been put on the line because we now need another source of funding.
Well, any way that we can, we will certainly put you on our website. But tell me, Mick, when you have cured, and I use that word, it's a lightly, because can you cure post-traumatic stress?
Well, what we can do is we can eradicate the symptoms that are presented associated with post-traumatic stress disorder. When people leave us, they go back to their everyday life. Now, I don't know anyone who has a perfect life. I mean, what does perfect mean? What does normal mean? All I know is that the symptoms that they present, that are presenting all of their problems, the stuff that stops them from integrating with everyday society, those disappear. They then go on to lead a life within society. Now, people have ups, people have downs. So they never stop being normal, in terms of responses. What they learn is how to work with those themselves, which is some of the education that they were lacking in the first place.
Yeah, Mick, I am so grateful. Thank you so much for telephoning. Mick phoned in from France.